Pure Gold Baby is a novel about a mother and daughter. I suppose that's the central theme in it. And the mother, Jess, is a young would-be anthropologist who becomes pregnant accidentally, as people did in the late 50s, early 60s, and her baby turns out to be a child with special needs. The narrative of the novel is their development through time together. Also, it's about bringing up small children, not all of them with special needs, in the early 60s, which is the period when my children were small, and they're in North London, and they're in an area near Finsbury Park to which I look back with great nostalgia, because that's where my children were when they were very small. So I very much enjoyed doing a portrait of a neighbourhood and of the neighbourhood attitudes and the kind of hand-to-mouth way young mothers lived in those days. They were having bits of careers, au pair girls, lodgers, a sort of very hand-to-mouth existence for young women in those days without nannies and formal support structures, but it was all good fun and very difficult. Anna is a child with undiagnosed learning difficulties, which probably, I think, relate to a difficult birth and oxygen deprivation, though it's never quite cleared up what the problem was. So she's vulnerable, she will never get beyond a certain development stage, and the book is really very much concerned with what happens to people when they're vulnerable, dependent, can't be on, after a certain stage, join in mainstream education. So while I was writing it, I looked into all sorts of questions about education, care homes, special homes, and I became very interested in what happens to children who don't go through the normal educational structure. Jess is a character who intrigues me because her longing in life when she was young was to travel, and then she finds herself restricted in her movements by having a child who's very dependent on her. And I just found this an interesting paradox. And over time, over sort of 30, 40, 50 years, people have said to me, oh, if I hadn't had my children, I'd have done this, that and the other. And what I'm interested in is when they can't do this, that and the other because of the children, what they then do choose to do. And Jess is an anthropologist. She's insatiably curious about everybody and about the patterns of life. And of course you can be a wonderful anthropologist in London because it's a forever changing anthropological scene. So I had quite a lot of fun with Jess's eye on what's been happening in the last 40 years. I said I'd never write another novel because I foolishly thought that in my last novel I'd solved all the problems of life and that I would have a long rest. And then, of course, when you have a long rest, you get really bored. And I thought, well, I will write another novel. But it took me a very long time to write this one because the subject matter is quite sensitive. I was worried about whether I had the right to write about somebody with learning difficulties. I don't write from the child's point of view, but I was dealing with material that I know is sensitive. So it took me a long time to decide I could and should do this, but I'm very glad I did now.